All hail the mighty, my friends, and welcome to the showdown between the Vampire Coast, who shall be led by Luthor Harkin, riding atop of a goose. And today, my friends, we face off against the Dinos, who shall be led by Hjalli Nali and the mighty Blueberry Slan. So the Blueberry Slan is indeed the high magic Slan, and he's a very good choice in this matchup because of Luthor Harkin and Deck Dropper. So he has Tempest, and Tempest not only kind of slows you and locks you in place, but it also does huge damage. And a character like Luthor, if I screw up for 1 second, and he's able to get the Umbral Tide, the Salamanders, his Stegodons with Ballistas to shoot at Luthor, I can lose him almost instantly. And you guys, of course, have seen this in ECLs and different tournaments I've had on my channel. How many times Tempest has won the game against Flying Factions. It is very strong, so I certainly have to be careful. Now for my front line, I do have Zombie Pirate Deckhand Mobs. In total, I think there's 4 of those bad boys. 2 bombers here in the secondary because obviously the zombies, they can hold their own, but against like Saurus and even against some skink variants, they can have some trouble. So having the bombers here to really just hammer your opponent's front line is a pretty good choice. Now for the rest of the build, we are going to be trying some Sirens, and Lizards do have some magic damage across the board, but in this case, if you look at his army, he doesn't have any true magic damage, I don't think. Of course, the Slan does the magic damage, so he can beat on the Sirens a little bit, but aside from that, Apotheosis, Hand of Glory, and I don't think there's any other magic damage. So yeah, they're pretty good. Very durable, of course. If they don't have magic damage, they cause terror, they have decent AP values, and I just really like them as kind of a pressure piece and a backline holding unit. Halberd's back here. We do also have a Vampire Caster with Luthor Harkin up on the Goose. 2 Fellbats, basically just to shut down Pterodons, because a lot of players that I played against, or Dino players I should say, like to come in with a lot of Pterodon Riders, drop rocks on top of your artillery pieces, and really cause you a lot of grief. So basically I have the Fellbats. So yeah, 2 Carronades here in the back to hammer down the big dinos. We have some Depth Guard hiding in the trees back here, and I always use Depth Guard in this matchup. Generally as like a backline sweeper. So I don't advance them with the main army. I wait till my opponent breaks through, approaches my cannons, and they pop out and ambush some very beat up Saurus or other units like that. Now, aside from that, guys, we do have the Mighty Bloated Corpse. So this is a wild pick here. This was on a King of the Hill stream, so having a little bit of fun here. Obviously, you shouldn't pick a Bloated Corpse in this matchup. I mean, it can be okay against Saurus and things like that, but most Dino players, if they have any skinks or any sort of range pressure, you're pretty much just going to be giving them 400 gold for free and honestly almost hurting your own troops, because the Bloaty Boy, if he blows up amongst your own ranks, it hurts your troops as well. That would actually be something that could make the bloat a little bit better. Might make it more of an inclusion in some frontline matchups. If it didn't hurt your own troops, maybe the zombies are used to that, right? Used to the filth that the Bloated Corpse kind of spews. Yeah, it's kind of like that in tabletop with Death Guard, for example. There's a couple explosions that don't hurt Nurgle units and things like that. But yeah, be an interesting buff for the Bloaty Boy. Now for Hjalli's build, up in the sky, he does have the Palhawks' Sentinels, double Ballista Stegodon. This is a really good counter against artillery builds because they're really meaty. It takes a lot for cannons to bring these guys down. They have a pretty good pinpoint accuracy, 360 range. So basically you bring these to counter Queen Bess, to counter mortars, to counter carronades. And you can see here he is going to be using the double Stegodons to approach my carronades and cause some problems. Now for the rest of his build, it is going to be a Salamander Kite build. So he's got, I think, 3 or 4 Salamanders, Palhawks' Sentinels, a bunch of Skinks for the most part, a couple of Saurus in the back, and some Feral Cold ones as well. So pretty cool build. Very much a kite build. Going to basically destroy my artillery and then force my very slow army to move forward. And this is kind of how you see some people play against dwarves as well. Using like Arrows of Kurnus to snipe their cannons, force the dwarves out of their comfort zone, and it can be really, really tough for sure. So let's get the show on the road, guys, and have some fun. Fellbats here are going to be swooping around the flank, looking to feast on the souls here of the Palhawks' Sentinels. And the Stegodons are going to be going after my cannons. And you can see I've taken a little bit of poke. Haven't lost the Carronade model quite yet, but still the damage is going to be substantial. So Luthor Harkin is going to be going forward a little bit kind of greedy here, because again, the Slan Mage Priest of High Magic is nearby for a big juicy Tempest, but I wanted to kind of rip a couple pistol shots, try and even out the duel in the cannon trade, because those Stegodon Ballistas will outtrade my cannons. Now, if I had 3 cannons, I might be able to win that trade, but with just 2, I certainly didn't feel confident. You can see here, my cannon is getting a little bit beat up, and even if I can heal the crew, it's not going to resurrect the cannon piece itself. So basically his Stegodons can be healed with Apotheosis and my cannons cannot be healed. The cannon models themselves cannot be healed. So it's a losing trade for me. So here I am going to be advancing my main army. I need to put a little bit of pressure on him, chase his Salamanders down, use the Sirens to kind of try and hunt those guys. Salamanders do have 70 speed. Sirens actually have 48, so they're not slow, and they can certainly put some pressure on Sallies. But for the most part, it still is going to be a very, very scary trade. Salamander Hunting Pack shooting in, going into the zombies. Some of the zombos going to be roasted, and they have a pretty good explosion damage. Salamander is not bad against infantry, especially lightly armored infantry, especially chaff, like the Zombie Pirate Deckhand Mobs. But those zombie boys are going to be just kind of holding their own, just basically buying time for my general advances. Bombers get in range, Luthor Harkin kind of follows up. And now I'm kind of in range of the Slans. I have to be a little bit careful, but I'm pretty sure he ends up getting me anyways here in just a second. So yeah, Tempest is coming down here. Thankfully, he's kind of not out of position per se, but the Salamanders are over here, you can see, and some of them are over here. So they weren't quite in immediate fire range to really just start hammering Luthor. So the duration is about half on the Tempest, give or take, and here comes the fire attacks. It's going to be very punishing for sure. Losing about half health on Luthor Harkin. The Tempest itself does pretty massive damage, and the Skinks are also poking, but I will get away here, and also I do have Invocation, so I can pretty much mitigate that. So it wasn't the worst situation in the world, really. And you can see Luthor was able to drop some bows here on the Stegodon with his pistol, allowing the cannons to also saturate a little bit further. In the meantime, Sirens are just hunting, just trying to chase down the Salamander hunting packs on the flanks, and in the distance we have a duel of duels. So basically, my Fellbats have been doing battle with the Powhawks of Sentinels, and somehow they've won. So I think I only sent one Fellbat after them, and that was probably a bit of a mistake. But nonetheless, we've been able to do some pretty good damage, and they shouldn't be too much of a threat as this game does go forward. Hopefully not. So, see, Siren's going to be going up and around the flank, trying to outmaneuver the Saurus warriors. They are very fast, like I said, so they can outrun Saurus and basic infantry here for the dinos, and now are going to be pushing up and trying to shut down the Salamander hunting packs. Basically, just keeping those guys from fighting. And here comes a really nice banishment attempt. So the Slan going to be dropping a banishment here, and it does get a couple Sirens, but thankfully for me, I'm able to get away. Unfortunately for Hyali, it does not make the best contact. Salamander hunting pack here is going to be getting hornswoggled, so they're slowed now, 53 speed, allowing the Sirens to shank some of these dinos. It's really sad. Look at that. That's like really sad right there. I don't know, man. That's like some Ewoks in Star Wars 3. Star Wars 3, the Empire Strikes Back. Yes. Or no, the Return of the Jedi. Man, I'm totally just blanking right now. But nonetheless, the Sirens are moving forward, pressuring the Salamander hunting packs. And the other Sirens are basically just doing the same thing. But they're getting worn down, actually, just from being kited and rammed by these big single entities. But the main thing for me is they've also stopped the Stegodon from shooting. Apotheosis, of course, is keeping it pretty healthy, but it's not shooting my cannons right now. My carronades are still shooting at the Stegodon, which I should be able to force off, but Luthor Harkin gets caught in another Tempest, and there's not even that much follow-up over here, just a couple skinks, but just a true testament to how powerful Tempest is. It's such a good ability. In the front line here, Cohort of Sotek trying to advance, taking some pretty heavy bombing runs, but they do have their Refuse to Die activated, so they're not going to be taking any casualties. Basically, they'll just go to their minimum threshold of HP before the models do go, but you can see it's worn off, and now they're going to be taking a bit of a beating. Now, as far as my cannons go, I have 2 carronades right here, and I think I have another carronade crew here. So I have 5 of my 6 cannons. The only reason I still have that is because I pressured and pushed forward, but you know, it's coming at a bit of a cost. I'm losing a lot of stuff. I am pressuring off some skinks, and the Salamanders are kind of on the run and not really shooting where they should be, perhaps, at Luthor. But yeah, it looks like he's going to get a good follow-up here anyways. Hyali with a great rotation. My Depth Guard basically at this point, I'm like, I gotta run, this is not good. My Depth Guard, I did pull forward to try and hunt down some Saurus and things like that. I kind of figured I needed to go more all-in with the pressure. So here the Stegodon is getting chased. Apotheosis activated, but from here, Luthor Harkin should be able to chase him off the battlefield. Invocation popped as well, which is going to be healing up the fleet captain, some of these other units. And also the cannons are still shooting at the Stegodon, so from here we should be able to get him. But man, massive Salamander fire coming into Umbral Tide. Salamander hunting packs really going after Luthor Harkin and buttering his sweet, sweet bread. So from here, though, we chase off the Stegodon, which is a nice grab. Balance of power is relatively even. I would say the game is kind of slightly in a state of advantage here for the dinos, with Luthor Harkin being so beat up. Granted, I still have my Depth Guard. I have my cannons in the back, which are in decent shape. And the Sirens back here should be able to defeat the clever girls, and from there, hopefully pressure on some of the other pieces. The Slan Mage Priest of Life is also in very good shape, bringing his magic damage to the table. If he came over here, he might actually be able to help finish off these Sirens, but I think just moving in this direction, he's trying to get a Tempest on Luthor, which obviously is a huge play, because if he kills Luthor, I'm in a lot of trouble, guys. Here the Depth Guard are in combat, finally able to catch some of the Saurus, and you can see they're putting a bit of a dent in these guys. And the Salamander hunting packs are coming in, but I decided to advance the Bloated Corpse, come out and try and get these Saurus in open field, but the Bloat is juking. Look at this guy, just Last Samurai, juking these shots so hard, and I'm surprised. I wonder if they changed the threshold with which the Bloaty Boy blows up, because this game, he took a ton of Salamander shots right to the face, which normally would just pop him, but in this case, the Bloat is able to fall back, so unfortunately, Hyali now knows I have the Bloat, but I'm going to be falling back to the tree line here, and you can see the Powhawks and Sentinels do get a nice little jump right here, able to crumble down one of my carronades. It looks like I still have 1 cannon there. No, I think I actually lost all 3. No, actually there's 2. 3? All 3? Yeah, I think it's all 3. The other one is the one with only 2 models here. Now back across the battlefield, Luthor Harkin was able to chase off that Stegodon, but now he's taking ballista shots. So I basically just have to pull back and try and restructure my army. My kind of idea is that I fall back to the cannons, use my cannon range, and just try and blast some of the Salamanders. And now that there's only 1 ancient Stegodon, I don't feel as bad about the situation. Granted, my caster's over here, which really sucks, and he's isolated. The Stegodon is really good at melee. 420 weapon strength with a bonus for his infantry. His Vampire Fleet Captain probably is going to just get absolutely whomped on here, and it is not going to be a good time for him. He does have some zombie summons, so the zombie summons are helping. Sirens are able to break off the clever girls, and now the Sirens are shanking into the Slan, but like I said, the Slan, isn't a crazy melee combatant, but he does, of course, do magic damage, so he will be able to get through the full Monty of their physical resist, which is pretty impressive stuff. Now back here, I've fallen back. Balance of power is, again, a little bit dino favored, but that's mainly because of Luthor being so beat up. 840 here, so if I can get some good picks here and there, certainly won't be the worst situation in the world. The Depth Guard, though, really just getting kited, and I kind of went against my cardinal rule of pulling them forward here early in the game, but I really felt like I had to put a lot of pressure on him considering he had the ranged advantage, and if I didn't like have an alpha strike to really shut down some of these ranged tools, I would basically just lose the game. Nonetheless, salamanders are shooting in here. You can see the depth guard are going to be falling back. 18 models are crumbling. They're being kited by skinks. Beautiful play here by Hyale, and he's able to get some really good poke, and the depth guard should be going down here in just a moment to the crumbling. Now back here, we have a couple halberds. We have our cannons as well. Luthor Harkin is in decent shape. And you know, the real hero of the day, of course, the bloated corpse is still alive, hiding in the tree line and just waiting and biding his time to strike. You know, he's going to come out and just one-shot that ancient Stegodon. And also, I think that's a change they should make to the bloats. I feel like the bloaty boys should do huge damage against single entities, like big time. Because, like, if you are able to dodge all the shots, evade your opponent's, like, counterplay, and get in there, I feel like you should be a little bit more rewarded. Because right now, they're just such a meme. I mean, they do pretty well against infantry, for sure. But imagine if the bloats could actually do some big damage against, like, single entities. And, like, you could, like, really punish, like, certain blob builds and things like that. It'd be pretty neat. Anyways, Lizards are advancing, cannons are shooting in once again. I believe in this situation we were going after the Stegodon for a moment, but we do switch on to the Salon relatively soon, figuring that if I can get rid of the Salon, it'll get rid of some of the juicy Tempest casts that will be going down, and that will certainly save me some trouble. So cannons still shoot again. Saurus and Lizards are advancing. Balance of power is pretty favored here for the dinos, but it's certainly a game that if Luthor gets some really good snipes and the cannons are able to finish off something of value, I could probably get back in this game, but it's going to be a really tight one here. Palhawk's Sentinels unfortunately have come back. He has 2 flying units that he can cause some problems with. In the back here, the bombers are able to finish off the clever girls, which is pretty nice. And if you look at both armies, we're both very, very beat up here. Not a whole lot left. Granted, he does have salamanders who have taken some cannon fire. Those guys are going to be approaching, and that's really a big issue here. Is the salamanders coming in and still having ammo? Because I have some counterplay in the form of the Carronade, but in this case, like, oh man, it's going to be tricky. So the Umbral Tide shooting in, and you can see, man, just absolutely roasts that Carronade. One of the cannon crews does go down there. Or the cannons itself, and the crew's still fighting, but not for long. So basically I send out the halberds just as kind of a buffer piece, just trying to hold them back, but Hyale's able to pretty much use the last of his ammo. He still has Sallies here that are very beat up, but nonetheless still have a high model count. 16 of 24 here, 17 of 24. These guys, of course, are in good shape. And Luthor goes over there. I thought he had run out of ammo, but I end up taking a pretty big blast to the face, and Luthor was going to do a breath attack, but the Tempest is coming, and it's only a matter of time before the glorious advance of the dinos. And they still have this big Stegodon too, which is going to be really scary. And the cannons are ripping some huge shots. You can see the Salon Mage is really like near death here, but unfortunately I wasn't able to finish him. And he will be getting a Tempest here. And Luthor Harkin, the Pirate King, and his many personalities, shall be crumbling to dust here as the Tempest and the Salamanders take him to that sweet country road. So down he goes. Salamanders basically swarm in. At this point, I don't really have much left. The Bloat, the last hero of my people, advances out of the tree line. But look at the Jukes. Like, man, he's got some moves. And on top of that, the Salamanders are, yeah, I mean, I really thought they would pop him, but he took a lot of shots, and I feel like something changed. Maybe there's like a shadow buff to the Bloats, but like, look at that. He still hasn't popped yet, which is very rare. Usually they go like right away, but he basically took that whole duration there. What a hero. What a champ. Truly the highlight of the game, but very well played. Hyale had a really awesome build, and honestly, it really made me reevaluate my Vampire Coast build. This is somewhat similar to my regular build. Sometimes I cut the Sirens and get like a big crab or something like that to help out, but it really made me reevaluate my play in this matchup. So I want to thank Hyale for that, because I consider Vampire Coast to be one of my better factions that I like to bring into tournaments, and I really want to have my builds optimized. Granted, I brought the Bloat as a bit of a joke, but really it's only like 400 gold or 300, so it didn't make that much of a difference in the end of the day. So there are many things I like about this build, but there's a couple things I think I want to change just based on some of the matchups I've had. And I've had something similar happen to me against Lizardmen players, where Tempest just absolutely ruins my day. Now, without Tempest, Luthor Harkin can pretty much do whatever he wants. He can run around, he can kill the Salons, he can kill the Stegodons, he can just go ham, right? But in this case, it was so punishing, he did so much damage, and when Luthor took that initial 2 bursts, those 2 Tempests, there was really no coming back from that, in my opinion. So very well played to Hyale, and on that note, guys, we're going to go and work on my Vampire Coast build based on some of the feedback I've gotten and some of the games I've played recently. So let's go ahead and pull it up here. Vampire Coast versus Lizardmen. The build's a little bit outdated, but I think we need more range. Yeah, see, sometimes I bring the Gallows Giant, but I think we got to cut Luthor here. I honestly feel like Noxulus would be pretty good, because he counters Salamanders. He can give you great counterplay against Stegodons. So if you have Noxulus on his Mighty Beast here, and you bring Invo and Raise Dead, Roth's Moondial, the 2 cannons plus Noxulus honestly should be able to deal with a lot of big threats now. Like Salamanders, like anything like that, you should be able to hammer them down pretty well. Now, Deck Droppers, I'm a little bit on the fence. I honestly feel like bringing a couple Handgunners could be really good too, because they can advance on the Salamanders, they can range them. It gives you a little bit more kind of steady pressure. Now from here, we have the Death Guard as a backline sweeper. We have Bombers as a frontline sweeper as well. Maybe 1 Siren is decent. I think 2 wasn't necessarily needed there. And from here, maybe a couple Scurvy Doggos. So maybe cut now. We got to keep the Felbats. They're just so good against Pterodons. Like, they're so effective at tar pitting. Cut one of these guys. Get a couple Scurvy Doggos to like chase Salamanders. And this is, I feel like a much better build. As a matter of fact, I'm going to save this and just like make it a Lizardmen build here. So yes, there we go. So yeah, you have like a lot of good anti-range. You should be able to outtrade 2 Stegodons with Carronades plus Count Noctilus. Part of me wants to even get a Gunnery White as well. I can put them on a Crab and just see how effective that can be. The 2 handguns I think are also a pretty good choice against Sallies and things like that. I believe Sallies have like 125 range, so you should be able to keep them at bay, because I really didn't have anything to like keep them honest. He was able to pretty much just harass me at will, and the cannons were occupied with the Stegodon, so I feel like you need a little bit more. Yeah, something like this I think could be pretty good. You could even cut the Sirens if you want to. How much would a Gunnery White cost, like fully stripped down, just like the basic extra powder and stuff? That's pretty good. I think that's probably better. Put him on the Crab. And from here, how could we accommodate? We could probably do this. We could probably just go with 1 Fellbat and put him on the Crab, and then what else do we want to bring? Enhanced Ballistics is okay, but it's pretty expensive, yeah. We don't really need that. It's mainly just for the extra powder and also single target sniping with his long rifle. And of course you get your Caster and Noctilus. I think a build like this could be quite a bit better, so again, we'll save this once again. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So well played to my opponent. Really an illuminating game, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Coast vs. Dino Showdown. And we will see you guys on the other side. Take care.